Hi! In this video I want to show you basic navigation in SPSS and talk about data editor and viewer a bit. So the main SPSS window includes a data editor for entering data. This window is where most of the actions happen. At the top of the screen is a menu bar similar to the ones you can see in other programs. You can see it here. The data editor has two views that we can see on the tabs at the bottom on the left side, the data view and the variable view. The data view is for entering data into data editor and for accessing data. The variable view, on the other hand side, is for defining characteristics of the variables within the data editor. The SPSS data editor is arranged such that every row represents data from one entity or observation. That we can see the numbers on the left side. And this observation can be a human, mouse, business, or anything else. And each column represents a variable that is measured. So the column will be variable, the row observation. The data editor is made up of lots of cells, which are boxes in which data values can be placed. When a cell is active, it becomes highlighted in orange, as you can see right now. You can move around the data editor from cell to cell using the arrow keys or by clicking the mouse on the cell that you wish to activate. So moving with arrows is also possible. Let's have a look at an example now. I have a small data set here, small example. Imagine we were interested in the difference of heights of people between genders, let's say. We asked 10 people to give their heights and also noted their genders. We have two columns, gender and height. Imagine I was a participant and you would have a single row representing my data, so there would be a different column for my gender and my height. So let's say I was the third participant. My gender is 2, which means female in this case. I will explain you this later. And I am 163 centimeters tall. The column with the information about my gender is a grouping variable. What does this mean? I can belong to either the group of males or the group of females, but I cannot belong to both of the groups. As such, this variable is a between group variable. Different people belong to different groups. Rather than representing groups with words, so writing male and female, in SPSS we use numbers. This involves assigning each group a number and then telling SPSS which number represents which group. Therefore, between group variables are represented by a single column, like this, in which the group to which the person belongs is defined using a number. So, for example, in this case, we might decide that if a person is male, then we give them the number 1. This is in our case. And if they're female, we give them the number 2. So as I said, I was a participant number 3 or observation number 3. We then tell SPSS that every time it sees a 2 in a particular column, the person is a female, and every time it sees a 1, the person is a male. We will learn later how to ask SPSS to do this for us. Let's now have a look on the second tab, which is the variable view. Before we input any data into the data editor, we always need to create the variables, and to do this we use the variable view. Every row of the variable view represents a variable, so in this case the row is a variable, and you set characteristics of a particular variable by entering information into the following labeled columns. We can see these columns up here. First of all, we have the name, where you can enter a name of for each variable. This name will appear at the top of the corresponding column in the data view and helps you to identify variables in the data view. So here we can see we have a variable gender and height, and here we can see it in the columns, both of them. The second column is type. This refers to the type of data. Mostly you will use numeric variables, as we can see here. And this is also a default for SPSS, but you will also come across, for example, string variables, which consist of strings of letters. So if you wanted to type in people's names, for example, you will need to change the variable type to be string rather than numeric. You can also have, for example, currency variables and date variables and some others. I will just go back to numeric now. Okay. Now let's have a look on the third column called width. Width refers to the numbers of characters in one cell. By default, when a new variable is created, SPSS sets it up to be numeric and to store 8 digits or characters, but you can change this value by typing a new number in this column. So you can just make it higher or smaller. Then we have the decimals column. The default setting is to have 2 decimal places displayed, but if you want to change the number of decimal places for a given variable, then we can replace the 2 with a new value or increase or decrease the value using the arrows. Again, as you can see, I ask SPSS to show 0 decimal places for gender variable. Then we have the label column. The name of the variable has some restrictions on characters. So here the first column. And also you wouldn't want to use huge long names at the top of your columns, because then they become hard to read. Therefore you can write a longer variable description in this column. This may seem pointless, but it is actually a good practice and a good habit to do that. Then we have values column. This column is for assigning numbers to represent groups of people, such as the males and females in our example. You can see this here. Then we have a missing column. This column is for assigning numbers to missing data. I will also talk about this in one of the next tutorials. Then we have columns. This columns column enables you to enter a number to determine the width of the column. That is how many characters are displayed in a column. This characteristic differs from width, which was the third column, which determines the width of the variable itself. So for example, you could have a variable of 10 characters, but by setting the column width to 8, you would see only 8 of the 10 characters of the variable in the data editor. So this is what is the width, but this is what is displayed. Then you can use align column to select the alignment of the data in the corresponding column of the data editor, left, right, center. Then we have the measure column, that is where you define the level at which a variable was measured. So if it is nominal, ordinal, or scale variable, there will be a separate tutorial explaining variables and the levels of measurement as well. And last but not least, we have the role. There are some procedures in SPSS that attempt to run analysis automatically without you needing to think about what you are doing, but we will not do such things where this is necessary, so I'm not going to talk about this anymore. So we can forget about the role column for now. Okay. Besides SPSS data editor view, data editor window, there is a second window known as the SPSS viewer. We can see it here, IBM SPSS Statistics Viewer. The SPSS viewer displays all of the output from SPSS, so this is our output window. It displays analysis, results, graphs, error messages, and so on. We can have a brief look here around what we have here. On the right hand side there is a large space in which all the output is displayed. SPSS displays both graphs and the results of statistical analysis in this part of the viewer, and it is also possible to edit a graph or table by double-clicking on it. You could even edit this part, this text window. There is a tree diagram on the left hand side of the viewer, which is here, and it displays the structure of the output. So the tree structure is fairly self-explanatory. Every time you do something in SPSS, it lists this procedure as a main heading. And if we do some more analysis, it would continue and continue here. That's all from my side for now. I hope you got to know SPSS a bit more, and we will continue with menus in SPSS in the next tutorial. Thank you for watching.